There's a moment that arrives quietly, maybe while scrolling past a friend's meticulously crafted life update or an influencer's perfect morning routine. When you realize your entire life, the laughter, the struggles, the small victories, the profound thoughts, is happening entirely offline, you are present in the digital space, observing the relentless performance, but you feel absolutely no compulsion to join the stage. And this detachment, this quiet refusal to perform, is confusing to almost everyone else, who assumes that if it wasn't posted, it didn't happen, believing that the validation of the digital world is a prerequisite for authentic existence. You've probably felt it, that subtle, persistent social pressure, the constant questioning that feels less like genuine concern and more like an audit of your participation. Why are you so quiet? Are you even on Instagram? You never post anything. Are you okay? Or the dismissive judgment that suggests you must be either secretive, boring, or technologically inept. And while others interpret your silence as shyness or lack of excitement, the truth is simpler and deeper. For you, sharing your reality feels like turning it into a product for public consumption, a commodification of your most personal experiences, and you find the cost of that performance far too high, preferring to keep your life intact, owned entirely by you, and consumed only by those who are actually present in it, those whose validation is earned through proximity and mutual effort, not through a double tap. People who don't post on social media aren't secretive or aloof. They're often individuals with a fierce, almost defensive commitment to cognitive privacy and a remarkably high tolerance for missing out. They are not controlled by the compulsion to document, but by the desire to experience the world in its raw, unedited form, recognizing that the moment you frame an event for the camera, craft the perfect caption, or calculate the optimal time to share, you pull yourself out of the lived moment and step into the role of the curator, thereby diluting the authenticity of the experience itself. This is not apathy. It is a deep-seated value alignment where presence trumps performance. There's a robust psychology behind this that has everything to do with where they derive their sense of worth and how their internal reward systems are calibrated. Social media is primarily powered by external validation, the dopamine hit of likes, comments, and follower counts, which are constantly shifting, ephemeral metrics. In stark contrast, the people who don't post often operate from a very high internal locus of control, meaning they fundamentally believe that their successes, failures, and most importantly, their self-worth are generated from internal efforts, personal goals, and genuine relationships that exist outside the screen. They don't need the public approval to confirm that their life is meaningful, because they already have the evidence of their own existence, making the digital platform feel redundant for core self-esteem maintenance. Psychologists might term this aversion as a low need for impression management, the conscious effort to control how others perceive you. For the majority, social media is the primary tool for impression management. It's a way to edit reality, to project competence, perpetual happiness, or effortless success. But for the non-poster, this active editing feels fundamentally dishonest, a necessary falsehood they're deeply unwilling to engage in. They are averse to creating the performance self, that carefully constructed facade that must be constantly maintained, updated, and vigorously defended against the messiness of real, flawed life. The energy required to be online acceptable is energy they view as better spent on internal, unshareable growth. The deeper psychological framework that supports this behavior lies in self-determination theory. SDT posits that human motivation thrives when three innate psychological needs are met: autonomy, feeling in control of one's life; competence, feeling effective; and relatedness, feeling connected to others. For the non-poster, they fulfill these needs entirely offline. Autonomy is preserved by keeping their decisions private. Competence is proven through measurable, non-public achievements. And relatedness is satisfied through high-quality, deep, unmediated connections. For them, social media, by forcing performative acts and external judgment, actively threatens their autonomy and competence, making withdrawal the most self-determined act possible. Furthermore, their resistance can be understood through the lens of social comparison theory, SCT. Most users engage in upward social comparison, comparing themselves to highly successful or attractive users, which often leads to feelings of inadequacy, anxiety, and depression. People who don't post have implicitly rejected this comparison game. They prefer to measure their life against their own past self or their own defined goals, a self-referential measurement system that is healthier and more stable than the chaotic, constantly escalating metric of the digital feed. Their silence is a form of self-protection against the toxicity inherent in constant comparison. And in a world where being visibly happy is seen as a baseline requirement for social relevance and professional networking, people who don't post are often judged harshly. Their quiet refusal to join the echo chamber is not seen as a choice for personal integrity, but as a failure of social participation, forcing them to constantly justify their own perfectly peaceful existence outside the grid. This judgment extends into crucial professional and personal spheres. They can be overlooked for job opportunities because recruiters see a ghost account and assume a lack of networking skill. In dating, their private profiles are often interpreted as an immediate red flag, an assumption of secrecy that masks their desire for mere intellectual sovereignty. The cost of not participating isn't just missing out on digital likes. It's the constant subtle need to explain your self-sufficiency. It's the exhaustion of being seen as aloof, suspicious, or even arrogant by those whose entire reality is mediated through the feed. They must navigate a paradoxical modern social contract. The very act of preserving one's authenticity and sanity is interpreted by the masses as a form of social defect, creating a lifelong tension between their deeply held value of privacy and the world's increasing demand for total visibility. But here's the powerful and liberating paradox. Their commitment to being fully present makes them superior at actual, non-mediated connection. They listen more deeply because they are not simultaneously composing a response or framing the perfect angle for a photo. They remember details more clearly because their brain isn't constantly filing every interaction under content. Their silence is not a lack, but a fullness, a deliberate reservation of energy that others dissipate on constant digital maintenance. This energy is redirected inward, fueling genuine growth and robust internal narratives, the very things that make a life truly rich and resilient. Most people who refuse the performance of posting develop this pattern not out of technological shyness, but out of a deep-seated, sometimes painful, value for authenticity. They observe the curated, conflict-free, perpetually happy lives of their peers and instinctively recoil from the inherent dishonesty. They realize that the space between what is posted and what is actually happening is a constant source of anxiety, and they simply choose to close that gap by refusing to post anything at all. They seek to be the person they wish to be, rather than appear to be the person they wish they were.
I remember the first time I grasped the quiet power of not posting. I was witnessing a truly beautiful, rare moment with family, and the ingrained Pavlovian instinct to grab the phone, capture it, and format it for the feed was intense. But I resisted, deliberately putting the phone down and choosing to simply look, listen, and commit the moment to organic memory. The moment itself was fleeting, but the clarity, the profound peace, and the feeling of absolute ownership over that memory were entirely mine, unpolluted by the external gaze or the knowledge that it was being prepared for public consumption. That single choice to prioritize experience over documentation was a quiet act of rebellion that felt more empowering than any viral post ever could. If you're a non-poster, you know this feeling, that quiet satisfaction of opting out of the spectacle, that realization that your life is not less interesting, but perhaps more real and more deeply felt precisely because it is not being judged by a restless collective audience. Your silence is not a void, but a powerful, necessary boundary, protecting the richness of your inner world from the draining noise of the external performance. You have chosen the path of unseen excellence. The hardest part about this choice is the persistent assumption from others that something must be wrong, that your absence signals failure or unhappiness simply because their own baseline for validation is so high. They interpret your sufficiency, your self-reliance, as deficiency, your lack of a need to share, and you are constantly fighting the societal narrative that equates worth with visibility. The world struggles to understand that you are content being a subject in your own story, rather than an object in theirs. Here's the deep philosophical truth most people miss about those who don't post. They are not rejecting humanity, they are rejecting the performance of humanity. They are not against sharing or connection, they are against the curated, edited, and monetized version of it. They understand that the most meaningful, transformative exchanges are often the quietest, the ones that happen face-to-face, unburdened by the pressure of public presentation, and that these moments are often lost the moment a camera intervenes. This commitment to the inner world is also rooted in the distinction between being and doing. Social media obsessively emphasizes doing, what you achieved, where you went, what you look like. But the non-poster prioritizes being, who they are, what they are learning internally, and the quality of their undocumented existence. Their self-image is tied to their character and integrity, not their feed, and that is a far more stable and resilient foundation for life, immune to the fluctuating moods of the digital collective. And that self-reliant foundation is why they are rarely controlled by FOMO. They understand that the out that they are missing is often a manufactured moment of hyper-visibility, a collective illusion. They have replaced the fear of missing out with JOMO, the deep satisfaction of prioritizing their authentic, quiet reality over the demanding, stressful digital spectacle. They understand that their own peace is more valuable than any social credit they might temporarily gain. So if you are someone who lives a beautiful life offline, stop apologizing for your invisibility.
Stop letting people make you feel like your lack of content is a lack of character, and start seeing your quiet, non-performing existence as an act of profound self-respect and resistance. Your choice to keep your life private is not a sign of social inadequacy. It is a sign of intellectual and emotional integrity, a refusal to treat your own experience as a commodity to be traded for ephemeral validation. You are simply choosing to be rich in experience rather than rich in views. You don't owe the world access to your reality. You owe yourself the authenticity of living it fully, without the constant second-guessing of the audience. Embrace the silence, because it is the sound of your own internally validated life happening, unedited, and consumed only by you. Your life is not less real because it is not shared. It is, perhaps, the most real life of all, unburdened by the tyranny of the digital gaze, built on a foundation of internal truth that no external pressure can shake.